Hello everyone and welcome to Real Life Racing episode 13 and a brand new track for this series. So obviously the main championship that I usually take part in has finished for this season, and I decided to try out a brand new track to show you guys the other sorts of different types of karting that you can do. And this is kind of a taster session for the championship that they do here. So it's basically the same sort of thing as the normal championship. We use the karts provided by the track and we do a select number of races, and it's just at a different circuit, so it's still quite local to me, but you'll get a taste of the different circuit and the different types of conditions that you get. So I'd qualified in 14th place after the qualifying session, which was only 10 minutes long, so that wasn't too bad. 14th out of 37 after having only 10 minutes experience of the track. I wasn't too displeased with that, and there are obviously a lot of good drivers in here as well. So it's a standing start rather than a rolling start like we used to, and I lose 2 positions right at the start there, but it wasn't too bad of a getaway, and I'm just trying to really keep it tight and keep it neat and tidy on these first couple of corners. You know, it's the first race start that I've had at a brand new track. I just want to keep it nice and clean and nice and neat and tidy and try and sort of work my way back up from there, but that's not allowed to really happen. I have a bit of a shunt there. Someone comes up on the inside of me, spins me around a little bit, and the same thing sort of happens here. I get hit a bit wide, but I do get a good run out of this corner, and that allows me to get straight past 3 people again. So the racing instincts are obviously still there, but there is a lack of experience with the circuit. Now the circuit isn't all that complex compared to the other one, but it is wet in some places. It's still quite damp. It was very, very cold today as well on the day that we raced here, so it's still quite damp in certain places, and that doesn't help you when you're trying to learn a track. You know, you've got to learn all the areas where it dries quicker, all the areas where it's still wet, things like that. So it is a bit of a challenge. Now we're going to go back at that to that first lap incident and watch it again, because it just so happens that the person who I crashed into is a friend of mine who I normally race with in the other championship, and he happened to just so have a camera on the top of his head as well, so we can see that crash from both of the different perspectives. And as you can see, he's getting bumped and barged a little bit as well on the right hand side of the screen, and he's basically just ahead of me at this point, and somebody spins in front of him, and that's why he was where he was. And then because he crashes into him, I get punted around and I can't avoid him, and I crash into him as well. So it was a really bad start to the race for him. I thought I lost a lot of positions, but he lost even more. And he's had experience with the track, so he can make his way back up a lot easier. But it was a bit of a shunt at the time. You know, I certainly lifted out of the seat of my kart when I got this hit. So yeah, it wasn't the best, but it wasn't the best way to start a first race on a new track. But since you don't really see karting crashes from 2 different perspectives, I figured I might as well put it in a bit extra, and certainly in slow motion as well. So back to the race, and I've made up a couple of positions on that first lap to get back up into 17th place, and that's not too bad. You know, I'm pretty happy with that, considering that I was down in 21st or whatever it was after the first couple of corners. I think I'm going to make up a place there because someone goes wide, but then someone comes right onto the inside of me there, and I try to go around the outside here, which I do start to get the speed around the outside, but he just forces me wide, and I end up losing a good number of positions again, and I'm back into 21st position. So it's just that sort of lack of experience of the people who you're racing against and the track that you're racing on. You know, I probably would have been able to do better if I had a bit more experience there. You know, I would have known not to go around the outside, for example, or I would have known that the guys here seem to be a bit more aggressive, which they did. And there's my friend going past me there, who sort of works his way back up through the field, so he has a bit more of a comeback than I did. But yeah, it was tricky. You know, always going to a brand new track and trying out racing with brand new people in different conditions is tricky. You know, you've got to get used to it. You've got to give yourself time to understand the track, understand the circuit, understand what you can do and what you can't do. For example, there 2 people spun off. I managed to make up 2 positions around the outside, but I lost 2 positions on the inside as well, and I ended up losing another position to this guy who's just overtaken me there. So although I overtook 2 people who spun off in front of me, I ended up losing a position because of it. So when it's so tightly packed in the first couple of laps, that's the sort of thing that will happen. I do manage to get an overtake done there. Someone goes a little bit wide, and that's a feature of the track at the moment. As you can see, especially around that long sweeping right-hander, it is still quite wet, and if you get offline just a little bit, you can really pay the price for it and go off. So I'm just trying to keep it consistent. I don't want to make stupid mistakes. I don't want to be pushing it too hard, end up making a mistake because I don't have the experience with the track, and then go off the track and lose a load of positions. I'm just trying to keep it nice and neat and tidy, and see where I can make up positions, see what I can do throughout the race. And I do have some good battles throughout the race, and yeah, it's just a case of learning as you go. Now, under the perfect circumstances, I would have come to the track beforehand and sort of learnt it, had a bit of a go around it beforehand. Now, I didn't get a chance to do that, so I am learning as I'm racing, really. I'm trying different lines, and that's what you'll see throughout this video and the next video. I'm trying different lines, working out which is the quickest way around the circuit. For example, the newer bit of tarmac there that was kind of a little bit around the outside of that corner, I found that to be more grippy, so I started using that a bit more. But I don't do that in the first couple of laps because I'm not used to it. So it's all about just learning the track as you go. Now, the first corner I felt I had down quite well right from the start. It was more the other corners that I had to learn, but the first corner I felt I had I felt I was doing that quite well, and that's really because I was able to catch people in that corner quite easily. So I was taking it much wider than a lot of other people in that first corner, and that allowed me to get the speed all the way, because it felt a little bit drier out there. So I was able to get the speed all the way through the next section of the track, and you'll see throughout the course of this video and the next video that I even managed to get overtakes on people around the outside of that first corner, just because I'm using the drier part of the circuit. And that's the sort of thing that, had I known that from the start, I might have been able to make up a few more positions. And had I known that in different areas and on different corners, I might have done even better. So as I say, it's all just a learning experience. You've got to take each corner as it comes, try out different lines, figure out what works and what doesn't work. As you can see, that's what I'm talking about with that first corner. I was able to catch people by going on a much wider line around that first corner. But then I seem to lose time on the other sections. So yeah, it's just a learning experience. I've made up 2 places on that last lap, and with it being damp, I'm just trying to find out where the grip is, and I don't seem to be doing too badly. I've obviously caught up to this guy in front of me as well. I do think on this corner there does look like there's a bit of a drier line right on the inside there, and I probably should have been using that. But that again, you just can't take everything in. I probably should have noticed that, but it shows up more on the camera than what it does in real life. So the focus of this championship and the way that it runs is not quite as complex as the regular one that I do. So the regular championship from all the other videos has a 10-minute practice and then 3 heats, so 3 10-lap races, and then a final of 12 laps. And it all depends on where you finish one race is where you start the next race, and your finishing position in the final is based on your sort of your finishing positions in the heats. So this isn't quite as complex as that. This is basically just a 10-minute qualifying and then 2 25-minute races. Now in the other championship you change your karts in each race. The karts are provided by the track. They're all slightly different. Some are going to be slightly quicker than others. That doesn't happen here. You basically get the same kart for the qualifying and the 2 races as well. So if you get a really bad kart, you've got to lump it, really. There's nothing you can really do about it. So this is the first race. Obviously this is the first 25-minute race, and obviously because it's wet, the laps are a little bit longer, which means we get more laps done in the second race. And the second race I'm going to be putting in another episode of this series. So in the next episode of this series, that will feature the second race. So if you do want to see sort of the full story about this this taster session, if you like, and how I actually did across both of the races, be sure to look out for the next episode, because that's where that second race will be. And I do have some good battles all the way through, you know, it is quite interesting. The two guys in front of me, I am racing for position, but with there being 37 people on the track all at once, you do come up against back markers. So, oh yeah, and I nearly went off there. That was a bit of a moment. I nearly lost it. And that's what I mean. You just get on the wetter part of the track just a little bit through a lack of experience, and you start going a bit wider than you ever wanted to. So yeah, there are back markers that you have to deal with in a longer 25-minute race with 37 people, all on a slightly shorter track as well. You do have to deal with back markers. So if you see me overtake someone and the position counter in the top left doesn't actually change, that's because that was a back marker that I've overtaken, and that wasn't for position. So the guys here who I'm racing against do seem a little bit more aggressive than what I'm used to. It was quite strange to have to deal with that, more so than normal. You know, at the other circuit, it seems more to be like controlled aggression. You know, if you get hit a little bit, you can give a little bit back as well. You know, it's not enough to sort of knock you off completely or anything like that. Whereas here, you'll see sort of during this race, we've already seen it in the first corner. That was only caused by someone diving up the inside of me, and certainly in the next race as well, in the next episode, you generally see that the people will just go for overtakes in places where they aren't really going to get done, and the only way that they are going to get done is if people hit into you. So that's what I was experiencing, really. You know, that's what I had to get used to as well. It wasn't just getting used to the track and getting used to the new karts, it was actually getting used to racing against different people, racing against people who are slightly more aggressive. Now, having said that, I am 19th position out of 37. It's probably a lot more cleaner. It's probably a lot cleaner at the front of the pack. You know, in the first sort of 5 to 10 positions, you are likely to find people who aren't going to make stupid moves like that, and it is going to be a much cleaner race at the front. So, you know, I can't necessarily say that this is true for everybody in the race, but certainly the people who I was racing against during this session, it did feel quite aggressive, and certainly I was getting hit quite a few times where really I thought I would have expected that I would never be hit because an overtake was never really on. So I am learning, you know, and I do learn throughout the course of this video and the next video, and yeah, as I say, it is just a learning process of learning as you race and just trying to improve all the time. So I've done not too badly so far. You know, I've managed to get up into 18th place. Now, I was down in 22nd, so 22nd was basically the lowest position that I was in. We're halfway through the race now. I've managed to make up 4 positions to get into 18th, and I've been behind this guy in front of me for quite a while, really. It seems like we're on similar pace. We are taking some different lines. I'm basically trying to get a bit of a wider line going into that corner to get a better line for the next one, but it doesn't really seem to be making that much of a difference. And as you can see there, I just have a little shake of the head because I realise, you know, it's not working, and that's what I've got to do. I've just got to try different things, even just racing. But I can sort of use the other people as a reference point. So if I catch up to someone, if I fall back from someone, I know that a certain line that I've taken hasn't worked, it has worked, and that's basically what I'm doing throughout the whole race. So yeah, it seems like we're on similar pace, and obviously, you know, the higher up you get in the grid, the harder it is to overtake people, especially when, you know, you don't have such a difference in pace to someone. And especially, you know, I'm catching up to him in some places, as you saw there, but losing time to him in others, and those places where I'm losing time to him may be places where it's better to get an overtake done. Now, the track here is a lot wider than the track that we are normally used to seeing. You know, it is meant for cars as well. Cars can go around this track. It is a lot wider, there are sort of many different lines that you can take into all of the corners, and that's a little bit of a lack of experience that I've been having, is that I haven't really been defending properly throughout this race. Now, I don't know how easy it is to defend on a track like this when there's so many different lines into the corners and people will just banzai up the inside of you and not really give a damn. But that's something that I was guilty of, you know, leaving the door open a little bit too much for people, allowing them to get the positions quite easily on me. But, you know, as I said, it's all a learning experience, and it's just a case of figuring out what not to do on a certain track. The track does gradually start to dry up, so because it is very, very cold, it doesn't dry up a lot, and it's certainly not fully dry by the end of the second race, but it's certainly more noticeable in the second race and sort of by the very end of this race that it is a little bit drier. Having said that, I don't take advantage of it as quickly as I could. You know, because I'm used to driving the track in the wet conditions, I'm not used to driving it in the dry conditions. As the track starts to dry up, I'm still driving the kart as it would be in the wet. You know, maybe taking a bit too much time through a corner to get the power out of it, that sort of thing, when really it would have been quicker to just see how much speed I could get around the corner instead. But in the next episode, I do manage to sort of get around that a little bit more and start figuring out the track a little bit better. In this episode, I don't really do that, but the next race, the second race, is where I really start to get to grips with it. So I'm up into 17th place now. As you saw there, I managed to get an overtake done after he sort of made a mistake going through back markers, and that's something that you've got to be aware of. You know, you've got to be able to cleanly pass the back markers, because you risk losing time yourself as well by having any issues with them, and that's what he had there. So I've made up another position. Now I'm into 17th place. Considering I started in 14th place, that's a bit of a disappointment to be that far back. Having said that, I am 20 places ahead of the worst position that I could be in, 37th, and given the issues that I had on the first couple of laps and the fact that I was down in 22nd place at one point, I can't be too disappointed with where I'm at this moment. You know, there are still a few laps left. I might get another place, but to have been able to gradually learn my way around the track and get used to the karts, get used to the conditions, all in a racing situation whilst trying to overtake people and defend from people. It's not that I had any practice on the track beforehand on my own. I had to do all this learning whilst I was racing as well. I can't be too disappointed with that. It's obviously, I would have preferred to at least stuck with that 14th place that I qualified. But having said that, you know, it is a learning experience. This was just basically a taster session to give me an idea of what this championship might be like, what the track was like, what the karts are like, what the other people who I'm racing with were like, and see if it was something that, you know, I enjoyed and wanted to do regularly. I'm still not sure. I'm still not sure whether it will be a regular thing that I do. There is a longer variant of this track that they normally use, so I'm going to do the first round of the championship just to get an idea of what that's like, really. And then you guys can let me know whether this is something that you want to see. You know, have you enjoyed this video? Would you like to see this championship run in tandem with the other one? And I get another position there by him going slightly wide there, so that's me up into 16th place. Another position gained, thankfully. So yeah, you know, is this track, is this championship something that you might want to see as well? Do you want me to take on a new track, a new challenge, and see me sort of work my way back up again like I did in the previous episode, in the previous series? You know, I actually went back and looked at some of the older videos, the first couple of videos from the real life racing series, and I was surprised by how much I'd improved, to be honest. You know, you don't really notice it as much, but from that very first, not necessarily the introductory episode, which was an endurance race, but from the second episode, which was the first round of the championship, to where I am now, it's been a huge improvement, really. So I'm really happy with that, and I think I have these videos to thank for that as well, because I've been able to look at my own performance and improve for example, there, you know, I got overtaken here, but I managed to get sort of the cutback done. I would never have been able to have the awareness to do that had I not done the previous season of racing that you guys all saw. You know, that's something that I learned in the previous in all the previous races that I've done, and I've just applied it here in a different situation on a different track, but it's the same sort of thing, you know, it's all racing. So do you want to see me take on a new challenge like this? Do you want to see me try a new championship, or is the format a little bit more boring? I personally think the format isn't quite as good, you know, with two 25-minute races. You get the same kart. If you have a bad kart, there's nothing you can do about it. You don't get an extra chance in a different race with a different kart. There's only 2 races, so it doesn't really lend itself to an entertaining video, I would say. But it's something that I might do. I might do the odd round every now and again. I'll certainly do the first round and see what happens with that, and I'll obviously bring you guys the video as well. But I will be continuing the other championship, the regular championship. We will be doing every round of that as per usual, so that will continue. And in the next video, I am going to talk more about this series, the real life racing series, how it's going to continue in the future, and how I intend to sort of revamp it a little bit and bring it up to the standard of my current content, I guess you could say. You may also notice that there isn't any lap times that we normally have. That's because the printout that I get at the end of a race at this track doesn't give you your individual lap times. It just basically gives you your best lap. So I don't have the information to give you individual lap times like we do in the regular series. That might not matter to you. I just wanted to let you guys know that if I do this championship or any races here, it probably wouldn't be quite as in-depth as the regular championship that I normally focus on. So we've got 3 laps to go really. I'm just getting around another back marker here, and I guess the one thing that I was sort of most happy with in doing this race in myself was that I didn't really make any stupid mistakes. Oh, this is what I was talking about, going right around the outside of the of someone around this first corner. It's just got a bit more grip around that area. Yeah, I quite enjoyed that overtake, even though it was on a back marker. But yeah, the thing that I was most happy with myself about was that I didn't really make any mistakes. There was one moment where I kind of almost went off a little bit. I went wide a little bit, caught a little bit of the frost and the ice that was on the side of the track, and I almost went off, but I didn't. I managed to save it, and in all other areas, I didn't really make any significant mistakes. It was always from somebody else hitting me, or just a lack of experience letting people go past. But I didn't actually make any mistakes that made me lose a lot of positions in one go, or go off the track or anything like that. So that was something that I was happy about. I was happy that I had that consistency to basically keep it on the tarmac, and that helped me get a couple of positions, I think, because there was a few people who went off, and that allowed me to overtake them. You know, you've got to be able to keep that consistency, more so than anything else, because you just lose so much more time by going off the track than you can ever make back up again. So yeah, I was really, that was probably something that I was most happy with about my performance in this race. By the end of it, my best lap time wasn't anything special. You know, I think I was around 2 seconds or something off the pace of the top guys per lap. So you know, I was nowhere close to being on the pace, but I do get a lot closer in the next episode. So the next episode will be the second race of this, and I do have a bit of an improved performance, let's put it that way. So I hope you'll all watch that one as well. Last lap that we're coming on to now for this one. The laps here are a little bit shorter as well. The lap times that we're usually getting are around, I would say in the dry, they're probably looking at around the 54-55 second mark. What we were doing here were around 1 minute times, because it was obviously slightly damp. But yeah, it's certainly a shorter and more simple track than the regular one that I normally do, that we're all used to from this series. It is slightly shorter and a bit more simple, but it's entertaining as well, because you get moments like that where you're 3 abreast going down the main straight. And there are a lot of different places to overtake, and with 37 people being on the track all at once, that's quite a lot. You know, you definitely run into a lot of people. So let me know, let me know down below what you think about, what you thought about this video, what you think about the track, what you think about the potentially including some races, or maybe the whole championship here in the series. Just let me know down below. I'm always interested to hear what you guys have to say, and I'd really be interested to hear whether you want to see more of this. I will be sticking to the main championship as well though, so yeah, let me know down below. I really appreciate your support as always. Be sure to like the video and all that good stuff if you enjoyed. Thanks a lot for watching everyone, I really do appreciate it, and I'll see you next time.